In the past decade, learning analytics research mostly focused on the technology advancement. In recent years, designers began to explore stakeholders' perspectives on LA, as well as issues related to ethics and privacy. Studies suggest that while LA applications are promising, there remain issues such as instructor adoption and large scale implementation of LA applications. Regarding instructors' views and concerns about LA, most studies probe the general expectations. A few studies investigated LA use in teaching practices, but they're small in scale. Our study further investigated instructors' views on LA across a broad set of teaching contexts. Our research objective was to characterize variations in responses to different LA scenarios, as well as to consider how these patterns might reflect the instructors' cost benefit reasoning about adoption. A survey is used as an instrument for our study. Within the survey, we used vignettes to encapsulate combinations of discipline class sizes, types of data being used, and phases of teaching activity. The survey was conducted at a public university in North America. We used a snowball method to recruit faculty participants who teach at least one undergraduate course. We gathered data about instructors' backgrounds, disciplines, years of teaching experience, etc. We also used vignettes to evoke instructors' reflection to specific teaching contexts. We gathered ratings of usefulness, privacy concerns, and likelihood of a scenario happening at our institution. At the end, we asked general questions regarding usefulness of data, privacy concern, and the usefulness of LA for teaching activities. Here are two examples of the vignettes. The first one, personal, is capturing using personal data such as gender, ethnicity, hometown, course history to design a new general education course. The second one, prereqs, which is focusing on using previous grades data to develop a more senior level course in a program. To see a full list of vignettes, please reference our paper. We short-named these vignettes as a way to reference them, so we'll use their short names throughout the paper and also this presentation. 85 qualifying responses were included in the final analysis, and we conducted exploratory analysis of the survey data. The primary analysis of the 10 vignettes focused on the ratings of usefulness and privacy concerns. Table 2 presents the means and standard deviation of these two variables. Higher value refers to higher ratings of usefulness and stronger concerns of privacy. By scanning the table 2 data, you can almost see an inverse relationship between the two. Further, we averaged across vignettes to create overall usefulness and overall privacy constructs. A paired t-test shows that the overall usefulness is higher compared to the overall privacy, and the overall usefulness and overall privacy have a negative correlation. Reviewing usefulness and privacy means across vignettes suggests that vignettes involving learning outcomes such as grades tends to be rated as more useful and evoke less concern about privacy, whereas those involving socially situated student behavior such as nonverbal communication are rated as less useful with a greater privacy concern. To further explore this pattern, we conducted exploratory factor analysis on both sets of score across 10 vignettes. The next two tables present the results of the exploratory factor analysis on both usefulness and privacy. We removed one vignette where they loaded rather equally on both components. Table 3 presents the factor analysis on usefulness ratings. in Table 4 presents the factor analysis on privacy ratings. We noted that the three vignettes, collaboration, language, and social, loaded strongly on the first factor for usefulness and the second factor for privacy. Similarly, another four vignettes, Poe, writing, nationality, prereqs, loaded strongly on the second factor for usefulness and the first factor for privacy. The commonality among these two subsets are the set of three vignettes revolved around social interactions of the students, while the other four vignettes were focused on learning outcomes. This led us to define four new constructs that capture usefulness and privacy ratings for outcomes-related versus interaction-related vignettes. Table 5 presents the four constructs. We examined the internal reliability of the ratings of the vignette, loading on one factor or the other to determine if they are able to be averaged or treated as a new construct. The Cronbach alpha is presented in Table 5. The means of these four constructs shows that the usefulness mean is highest for outcomes vignettes, but the privacy mean is the lowest. For interactions vignettes, both usefulness and privacy means are in the middle range. A 2x2 repeated measure ANOVA confirmed this pattern, revealing significant interaction. We asked the likelihood of a particular vignette happening at our institution. From a cost-benefit perspective, we speculated that rated likelihood of adoption might be mediated by a trade-off between usefulness and privacy concern. That is, usefulness can be seen as a potential benefit and student data privacy as a primary cost. So difference between the two might serve as a surrogate for the respondent's implicit cost-benefit calculation. We explored this by taking the difference between usefulness and privacy, correlation between this difference and rated likelihood of adoption is in Table 8. Our speculation on usefulness privacy difference predicted likelihood happened to be largely true. We observed a positive correlation for all but the video vignette. To sum up, through our study, we found that instructors found that outcomes-related data is more useful compared to interactions-related data. Privacy concerns are lowest for outcomes-related data compared to interaction-related data. Negative correlation was found between perceived usefulness and privacy, where instructors may implicitly calculate the cost-benefit between usefulness and privacy. What does this mean for learning analytics adoption at scale? From our study, you can see that instructors see vignettes that have an advantage of usefulness over privacy concern to be more likely to happen at an institution. Similarly, instructors with higher useful privacy difference have a higher adoption likely score. One implication is that for institutions to pursue LA should take a significant effort to help instructors to appreciate the benefit, such as using vignettes as our study to build from a local teaching practice or create a supporting cohort of instructors who are early adopters. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions or interest about this study, please feel free to reach out to the authors. Thank you.
Okay, and we switch. Vivian is here to, remotely to answer questions.
Hi, Vivian. Thanks for the great talk. This is Shuang from the University of Michigan. So I really like this work, and I'm wondering, so both as an instructor and as a researcher in the field, I felt sometimes the challenge was not visualizing the data, but it was collecting the data and cleaning up the data in the first place. So have you thought of, like, from the instructor's perspective, in your surveys, do you have any insights about what kind of data do instructors want in the first place, and how do you think you could facilitate them collecting these data?
That's a great question. In the survey, we actually also asked general questions like what instructors find certain types of data that are useful. I did not put it in the presentation, but if you go to our paper, we did specify those those data in the paper. So the general consensus is that instructors would find all sorts of data that is useful, including like everything, regardless if it's grades or interaction types of data, as we discussed it in the paper. In terms of how to collect them, the survey was putting the data collection or the data in the context of a learning analytics application. So the vignettes helped with setting up those contexts. So I think that's probably how the instructors would answer those questions at the first place, or putting their minds there. So if you are referring to the student data collection, I would say that would be the way to do it. I don't know if you were talking about collecting instructors' responses as like survey responses as the data collection. If that's the case, we just recruited based on our references and trying to put out calls for participation through different channels, like different groups of faculty who are interested in this topic. That's how kind of we recruited the participants.
Thank you, Vivian.
Hi, Vivian. Great talk. This is Renjari from UC Irvine. So I think one of your findings is that, like, overall, the faculty members you survey, they overall kind of perceive grades-related kind of data as more useful and less a privacy concern than interaction and all that kind of data. Whereas I was thinking that on the other hand, learning analytics researchers, put a lot of effort in analyzing, understanding, this kind of learning process data, right? Like, and we usually use grades data as some sort of outcomes, right? So what do you think about implications for learning analytics researchers based on your findings on the faculty members end?
That's a great question. Yeah, so I think when we began to start this, when we started this project, I think we based off on like a lot of the existing application, which is the use of performance or grades type of data. Starting from there, and then we also created these vignettes based on current research, just the possibilities of using other types of data that are presented in different types of research papers. So I would say one of the things we also discovered is that if they see as a benefit, so this cost of benefit type of thinking, implicit thinking among participants, is that if the cost benefit is somewhat that they're convinced that this is worth it, they might consider to use it. So I would say one of the implication would be try to amplify the benefits of using learning analytics. That might help the instructors to feel that it's worthwhile to use it, and also try to minimize the privacy concern. Obviously, there is that level of newness in a sense that, the interaction types of data has always been there in the classroom, but it has not been presented in a visible way as, it would be on a dashboard or it would be summarized somehow. So on some level, I think participants feel like it's generally new, feel new to this type of data. Some of them may not know how to see them or have greater concern of this type of data. I mean, as time goes on, this might change. As of right now, this is what we found, that how they thought of it. I hope that answered your question.
Okay. Questions?
I have a question. So I think this approach is really useful because it allows us to iterate very quickly on designs that may work or may not work so well, right? Without having to take it to the classroom every time. So long as it is predictive of real classroom behavior, of real adoption behavior among teachers, right? Whether we can trust the vignette. And I think one of the pieces that might be really critical there is whether the data that people are seeing, teachers are seeing, is data that they can relate to. And so I'm wondering to what extent were the vignettes designed in a way that a teacher could sort of imagine that, oh, this is like my classroom. And so I'll have the same kind of scrutiny when I see this as I would if you gave me the real data.
Yeah, so this is one of the, we noted in the limitation of our study is that we did manage to recruit a very large variety of very diverse group of faculty, so ranging from education, humanities, and engineering and business across the board. And the distribution is rather equal with a slightly higher numbers of faculty from engineering. So there is that, there is that a sense of that some of the faculty have to jump into the vignettes to try to answer those questions. I would say the only thing that could mitigate that maybe is to have a higher number of participants. So we ended up with 85 qualifying responses. But at the beginning, we had about 150 total participants. I think that it's partially is the challenges of the topic. Maybe that is that. So some of the participants find that it's maybe too out of their comfort zone, or they don't really know much about this topic, so they stop answering these questions halfway through. So if we had more participants, it would help to strengthen this the different groups of people answering these questions. But I personally do not really have a better way of trying to mitigate that, because everybody does have their unique context. And the one thing that we could do is to diversify the vignettes and diversify the participants.
Vivian, questions? I have one question, Vivian. We are here. You said this dichotomy between privacy and usefulness. Do you see if there is a way to don't contrapose these two things? There is a way when privacy supports usefulness and usefulness support privacy, or they are always separated and against each other?
Oh, that's a good question. We did not see it in this round of data. It was very much every time that we ran the test, it was the reverse. And usefulness supports privacy, or privacy supports usefulness. Yeah, no, I unfortunately, I have not seen those cases I might need to go back and rerun the data and see if that's somewhere that indicated, but every time we ran the data, it was mostly reverse indication of, and there's only times that they might be loaded rather equally, which means that, I don't know if it's actually that it's just or it just happens to be that way. It could be that it's either that is not a huge concern or not particularly useful, but I haven't really seen that it could be in support of, one or the other. That could be an area to explore though.
Thank you, Vivian.
Mhm.
Just some time. Okay. More questions. Thank you, Vivian. Thank you for your presentation.
you.
Our third presenter, please set up your machine.